Hello, I'm Natasha Hussain, and this is Newsfeed, your dose of what people are talking about online. And we start in India, where angry farmers have marched on New Delhi, causing traffic chaos and bringing large parts of the capital to a standstill. They're demanding new laws that would guarantee minimum crop prices. Farmers want protection from when prices crash due to market volatility. More than 40% of India's population of 1.4 billion people live in the countryside, and many feel their wallets have been squeezed under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and that their livelihoods have been largely ignored, unlike urban dwellers. With election just weeks away, Modi, who is seeking a third term, will have to take them seriously. Smita reports from India's capital.
Well, this right behind me is the stage where farmers from different states in India today, but particularly in Maharashtra, Haryana, also Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, they gathered. They were given permission to come here and assemble and protest for around 4 hours by the Delhi police and the local authorities. This is more than a month since the farmers' protests began on 13th of February. Now, the farmers who assembled here today belong to the parent Sanyukt Kisan Morcha, SKM, which was at the forefront of leading the sustained farmers' protests of months-long protests that had led to the repeal of the 3 controversial farm laws, which people said that the government had then in fact bulldozed amid a pandemic.
While the movement managed to stop neoliberal reforms, the government never acted to implement the solutions that the farmers themselves had proposed. So, a broken system of industrialized agriculture, which has caused an ecological disaster and pushes tens of thousands of farmers into bankruptcy and suicide every year, remains unchanged.
The key demands remain, one, essentially, that give us a legal guarantee for minimum support prices. The farmers continue to say that, look, when people go and purchase a small orange from a farmer, if you're paying 2 rupees, 3 rupees, that same produce, when it goes in through the corporates, into the retail outlets, it's sold for some 50 rupees or 60 rupees. But that profit is not reaching the small and the middle income farmers who are struggling to provide food for their own family members, even as they continue to grow crops and produce food for, of course, a 1.4 billion country where agriculture still remains one of the dominant, in fact, professions. It's a heavily based agri-economy. General elections in India are just a few weeks away, and the farmers want to be heard. They want the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, to pay heed to their demands. And while the government has conferred the highest civilian honor, the Bharat Ratna, to M.S. Swaminathan, one of India's foremost agricultural scientific experts, his committee's report that suggests a lot of things that need to be implemented for the benefit of farmers that has been gathering dust for over 2 decades.
TikTok is at loggerheads with U.S. lawmakers again. A new measure passed in the House this week has brought Americans one step closer to a potential nationwide ban of TikTok. But are U.S. politicians really serious with their sell-up or get-out threats? Sari has the answers.
US lawmakers are hell-bent on getting rid of TikTok. A potential ban is back on the table after the US House of Representatives passed a measure that would force TikTok's Chinese owner, ByteDance, into selling its controlling stake. If the app fails to change hands within 6 months after the bill is passed, then TikTok would be blocked for its staggering 170 million US users, the most anywhere in the world.
The legislation did not ban TikTok. It's simply a divestiture of TikTok so that this social media platform can be owned by an American company that would protect the data and the privacy of the American consumer from malignant foreign interests like the Chinese Communist Party.
While supporters of the bill stress that this isn't simply a ban on the app, TikTok certainly thinks so.
This legislation, if signed into law, will lead to a ban of TikTok in the United States. Even the bill sponsors admit that that's their goal. This bill gives more power to a handful of other social media companies. It will also take billions of dollars out of the pockets of creators and small businesses. It will put more than 300,000 American jobs at risk, and it will take away your TikTok.
TikTokers are not happy about being forced onto other platforms like Meta's Instagram. Many believe the American tech giant could easily become a monopoly on vertical videos if its main competitor is left out of the picture. Even former President Donald Trump, who initially tried to ban the app back in 2020, agrees. Meanwhile, the public is looking for clarity beyond the blanket national security response.
I don't think they've been open and transparent enough with people because the users and 170 million people use it. I don't think 95% of them know why it's being banned. I don't think it's clear enough, and it's been different states have tried to ban it and they're basically just saying China. They're not saying the actual reasons and maybe data. I think there's a wider question there of how many of these internet companies own your data and not just TikTok.
Despite China and the company's denials of Beijing's involvement in the app, inquiries into TikTok's data security are not unfounded. The app collects an extensive amount of information from its users. Personal details, approximate location, IP addresses and device type, what the user does while they're on the app, and information on linked social media accounts are all standard data most platforms get from their users. What's concerning about TikTok's case is that depending on the permissions given, it can access your exact location and data from other apps, such as messages and whatever you've copied on your clipboard. As a Beijing-based company, ByteDance is required to hand over any personal data relevant to the country's national security to China. Like many other countries worldwide, the US banned the app on government devices last year. You'd think that would limit the number of US officials active on the app. But even President Biden, who sports a ban, is running his re-election campaign on Gen Z's favorite platform. The bill needs to pass through the Senate floor and Biden's desk before kicking TikTok out of the US. Such a move would be very unpopular with younger voters. Over 60% of Americans under 30 actively use TikTok. Some have already started criticizing their representatives for approving the measure, after a notification from the app urged them to do so.
So I would just like Congresswoman Miller to know that if she does vote yes, I will not be voting for her in the primaries.
With the president not polling favorably among young voters, the Biden campaign may not want to risk losing even more of the youth vote.
This week saw the death of a popular TikToker, a polio survivor in the US known globally as the man in the iron lung. Paul Alexander died at the age of 78, having lived most of his life in this metal contraption. He contracted polio when he was just 6, paralyzing him from the neck down. Unable to breathe independently, the iron lung regulated his breathing. By the 1960s, ventilators made iron lungs obsolete, but Alexander preferred to keep using his iron lung. He didn't let it hold him back, though. He went on to earn a law degree, become a lawyer, publish a memoir, and in the last few months of his life, become a TikTok star.
I practiced law for 30 years. I wrote a book and gave it to the world about beating my polio. And millions of people know my name today.
As Bitcoin hit historic highs this week, a UK court ruled that an Australian computer scientist did not invent the cryptocurrency. For years, Craig Wright had claimed to be the mysterious inventor of Bitcoin, known only by the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto. But London's High Court on Thursday found that there was little evidence to back Wright's claim. The Crypto Open Patent Alliance had filed a lawsuit against Wright to stop him from suing Bitcoin developers. The alliance, whose members include Twitter founder Jack Dorsey, says Wright repeatedly forged documents to falsely show he created Bitcoin and used those forgeries to pursue claims from Bitcoin developers worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Wright has been branded a fraud and may be referred for criminal proceedings given the enormous amounts of money and time he's cost the UK justice system. When you hear book club, you might picture older women in dusty rooms sipping tea and maybe giggling over a racy book. But times have changed. Book clubs and physical books are making a huge comeback among the younger generation. Lara turns the pages of this story.
Don't judge a book by its cover, goes the saying. When it comes to Gen Z, don't judge them by their screens, which seem more appropriate. But those smartphone kids are also bookworms.
Whenever you open a book, it's just an escape, and you could go anywhere you want in the world. It doesn't even be on our Earth. It could be hundreds of galaxies away. It's just such a cool thing to be able to just open a book and just see what someone's life can be like.
Believe it or not, more than half of Gen Z reads at least once a week. 40% are dedicated readers, indulging in books daily. And shockingly, the tech-savvy crowd is picking up print books over ebooks.
I love the feel of a physical book. The feel and smell of the paper, the sound when you crack the spine of a new book. Everything about a physical book just evokes the senses and immediately sets a scene where you can curl up in your favorite reading spot with some kind of hot liquid and the actual look of ink on cream paper.
But why the shift? Turns out the digital eye strain from spending an average of 9 hours a day online is pushing Gen Z to seek refuge in books. The appeal of escaping the mundane daily routine and getting lost in the pages of a good story is also a powerful draw.
So I came across this book via a recommendation on someone's feed.
And here's where Book Talk enters the scene, shaking up the reading game for Gen Z. With over 236 billion views on TikTok, the Book Talk hashtag has become a cultural phenomenon with its own aesthetic. It's just not about showing off bookshelves, it's about sharing experiences, making recommendations, and building a community of like-minded readers.
I've just never had friends that have the same taste in books as me. I love reading fantasy, and I would really love to start a book club, mainly for fantasy.
As a result, virtual and in-person book clubs are popping up like never before, breaking the isolation blues from the pandemic.
We pick up some amazing books and we're just going to read and chat together as a community. We're going to chat about it in the comments, we're going to chat about it in the hashtag.
And these aren't like grandma's book clubs.
I have always wanted to be in a book club.
I run a virtual book club with 2 other amazing book talkers.
I started a book club.
I really am falling in love with reading.
I was lucky enough to have really great books kind of around my house at all times.
I love to read. I think it helps my brain.
Swapping TikTok algorithms and Instagram reels for a good old book discussion provides Gen Z with a refreshing break from the usual digital frenzy. Whether the books and topics differ between groups, the common thread is the sense of community they bring. Because who doesn't crave a bit more connection in this lonely world?
And that's our show. Find our latest stuff on our YouTube channel. See you soon.